I'll admit it right now, and I know y'all want me to do this. I was flat out wrong on my prediction. Ohio State won the game. I'll give you guys that. But am I still wrong about Ohio State? I still think they're overrated, and they still haven't proved too much to me. If you think any other team than Tennessee is the number one team in the country or the best team in the country, you're out of your mind. Michael Myers Matt in the building. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Week 9 recap. I gotta be honest with all of you. Week 9 was probably the worst week of college football up to this point. Whoa. Hold on. I still enjoyed it, but the one bad part about it is that every big game, or some of the biggest games on Saturday, they were all blowouts. There wasn't really any close games. Florida and Georgia, that was a blowout. Kansas State and Oklahoma State, what happened there? And also Ohio State, Penn State. Yeah, that one was close in the first 3 quarters, but you see the box score. It wasn't close after the 4th quarter. And don't you think that I forgot to mention and bring up the game that I was probably looking forward to the most outside of Ohio State and Penn State, and that's Tennessee and Kentucky. I wasn't looking forward to the Tennessee game because I thought it was going to be close. I actually stated in the preview, I thought they was going to blow them out, and I wasn't so sure why all these Tennessee fans were worried. Leading up to the Tennessee and Kentucky game, all I saw everywhere was people talking about, oh, Tennessee, they may be looking ahead to Georgia. This game could be sneaky close and blah, 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 blah. And I never saw it. The reason I didn't see it, fairly simple. Number 1, Tennessee is really great. And number 2, Kentucky, not so good. My biggest thing going into the game was I didn't even know if Kentucky could score on Tennessee. And that's the only way you're going to keep it close. And to go on top of that, if you do score on them, I don't think you can keep up with them. And well, that was exactly what happened. Still, even though there was a lot of blowouts, we got a lot to talk about. For those of you that watched the preview video, you might have saw where I picked the upset. I said Penn State's going to be Ohio State, and here's how. I got to address that in Ohio State. We got a lot to talk about, as always. We're on the road to 300K, so if you like college football content, consider subscribing. If you don't want to, that is cool too. All right, Matt, blah, blah, blah. Shut the crap up. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. First thing is first, hope all y'all have a happy Halloween tomorrow night. Go scare some kids for me and send a video of it to me on Twitter. But anyways, we got to get into our 11 a.m. games first. We're starting out hot with the Ohio State and Penn State. Oh man, this was the game I was looking forward to the most outside of every game on Saturday for one reason only. Because this is the first time throughout this entire season that Ohio State is finally playing some decent competition. Do I think Penn State is a great team? No, but I would put them on the category of slightly above average or good sometimes. The only reason I can't label them as good is because their quarterback holds them back so much, and he goes by the name of Sean Clifford, and we'll talk about him a little later. Actually, we'll talk about him right now, because in this game in the first quarter, you couldn't even blink or turn away because Sean Clifford had 2 interceptions within the first 5 minutes. It all happened so fast, and matter of fact, I had one of my friends text me because he didn't watch the game until later in the first quarter, and he was like, yo, how does Sean Clifford already have 2 interceptions? I'm like, bro, you missed it. He had those 2 picks within the first couple of minutes. So pretty much, Clifford set Penn State behind from the jump. And we got to talk about this, and I know nobody's going to speak on it because Ohio State, you see the box score, they had 44 points, but that doesn't do it any justice. Penn State's defense, they played amazing. Nobody's going to talk about that, though, because it doesn't make sense to say, yeah, they played really good, and you see they gave up 44. But once again, I have to remind you, a main reason Ohio State even had 44 was because of Clifford. That defense was shutting Ohio State down. They only had 16 points with about 10 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. Now, granted, they probably would have scored a touchdown or 2 later in the 4th quarter, but there's no way they would have had 44. Take a look at the numbers for yourself. Clifford was 32 for 47, 370 yards, 3 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, and a QBR of near 64. That game yesterday is a prime and perfect example of the Sean Clifford experience. I've never seen anything like it. How can you be pushing 30 years old, you've played college football for 8 years, and you still suck? I don't know, but it is what it is, and it's what I'm talking about. Sometimes he'll make good throws, he'll make good plays, but then a drive or 2 plays later, he'll make one play or one throw where you're like, what are you doing? It blows my mind. I am nowhere close to a Penn State fan, and most of you know how I feel about the Big Ten. But I genuinely feel bad for Penn State fans having to watch this. It's a flat-out crime and shame for Clifford to still be the starting quarterback. And don't act brand new to this. We've seen this year after year. It's the same Clifford. I'm not going to try to criticize him too much because we should have expected this. Is anybody shocked by how he played? I don't think so. You see on the box score, 3 interceptions. But what you don't see is 2. This also has to be some kind of history. 2 of those was to a defensive end. Not a linebacker, not a safety, not a cornerback, a defensive end. Come on, man. And these weren't batted balls. These are strictly great plays by a defensive end and bad plays by Clifford. I gotta give him some credit. JT Tuilamalo, that dude is unreal. Oh yeah, gotta mention this, I almost forgot. He also had a strip sack fumble. He balled out and he was the MVP of the game, not even close. And what was so impressive isn't the strip sack or whatnot. He played great, but it's how soft his hands are when he was catching those passes. Those interceptions that he had, I don't think he gets enough credit. You won't see cornerbacks and safeties make plays like that. What a player he is, and I believe JT is only a sophomore. As far as it goes for Ohio State's defense, I still don't think they're good. I would label them as average, but they're better than last year. I'm not going to say Penn State had their way with them because they didn't, but they was going up and down the field. I mean, let's just look at the numbers. Sean Clifford had 370 passing yards. But here's the craziest part about this, guys. Somehow, someway, with Sean Clifford playing terrible in the first half, you look up, Penn State is winning at halftime 14-13. Part of that is because Ryan Day is an idiot as to why he's got his quarterback out there with 6 seconds to go and no timeouts. I don't know. You should have took the point. You're on the road. If you're the home team in that situation where CJ Stroud got sacked before halftime, I don't mind it. But being on the road in Happy Valley, gotta take the points. I saw some people trying to say, Matt, that's not Ryan Day's fault. That's CJ Stroud's fault. And no, it's not. You don't put your players in a situation like that to fail. Ryan Day set his players up to fail in that. That's on him 100%. It's not going to get talked about because Ohio State won the game, but if they would have lost, everybody would have been talking about it. I like Ryan Day as a person. I think he's a good coach. I wouldn't call him a great coach just quite yet. I'll double down on that statement. I think he's far from a great coach. The reason Ohio State has been so successful over the past few years isn't because of coaching, it's because of their players. You can do what you want with that information. That's a different video for a different day. As far as it goes for the second half, or more so the fourth quarter, Sean Clifford cost Penn State the game, and Ohio State made plays when they needed to. It was a combination of 2 of those things. And in my preview video, I called it. I predicted Penn State to win this game and pull off the upset. If you want to know why I said that, you can check out that video for yourself, but I'll give you the short summary. Reason number 1 is because it's an 11 a.m. game, and I didn't think Ohio State players were going to be amped up for this game, and I still don't think they were. And reason number 2 is because they haven't been battle tested. But as we all know, Ohio State won this game, so I was wrong on my prediction of the game. But was I wrong about Ohio State? I don't think I was, because I was extremely underwhelmed with Ohio State's offense on Saturday. I knew their defense wasn't good, and I'm just being honest, they're not good, but the offense, I thought they'd be better. Yes, of course, they've looked great to this point, but you ain't played nobody. You finally play somebody, and it's kind of like, you didn't look too hot out there. And I know it's going to be controversial because everybody's going to say, well, Matt, they scored 44 points, and that is very deceiving. I'm going to continue to emphasize it. A large reason they had 44 is because of Clifford. I agree with this tweet from a Penn State fan. This game is on one person, Sean Clifford. You can blame Franklin if you want, but they had a lead in the fourth quarter before Sean choked it away single-handedly. I'm glad I'm not the only one who sees it this way. If Penn State has a better quarterback, or just a quarterback that doesn't make costly mistakes like that, they probably win this game. That's not ridiculous of me to say because they was up 21-16 with 10 minutes to go. Now, for my Ohio State fans, don't try to be all cocky and whatnot because the game's over and you won because you know you was nervous. I know how this goes. It's not just Ohio State fans. It's fans everywhere. Everyone loves to talk crap after the game when you win, but it takes a real man to talk crap when you're losing or even tied, and you didn't see no Ohio State fans talking crap during the game. I'll admit it right now, and I know y'all want me to do this. I was flat out wrong on my prediction. Ohio State won the game. I'll give you guys that. But am I still wrong about Ohio State? I still think they're overrated, and they still haven't proved too much to me. I will give you credit. You went into Penn State, Happy Valley, a hard place to play, and you faced some adversity, and you still came out with the win. That's great. But the one area of concern for me for Ohio State is the offense just didn't seem so fluent Saturday. And the worst part about it is I thought CJ Stroud played great. I heard their announcers talking about, well, CJ Stroud's not playing that good. And I'm like, dude, are you watching the same game as me? I didn't think Stroud could play too much better, but I guess everybody else saw it a different way. These numbers do not lie to you. It doesn't get too much better than 26 for 33, only 7 incompletions, 350 yards with 1 touchdown, 0 picks, and a QBR of 93.6. It just doesn't get too much better than that, and the reason it didn't seem like he was doing too much is because I don't even know who the coordinator is for Ohio State. Fill me in the comment section. But your offensive coordinator, I don't want to say he needs to be fired, but that was a terrible game plan. But, and I have a big but, This goes to show you the talent gap from Ohio State and Penn State. What I watched on Saturday was Ohio State get out-coached by James Franklin. That entire staff for Ohio State got out-coached, and they still won the game. That's not credit to Ryan Day and the staff, that's credit to the players. I enjoyed watching the game, but that's why it's frustrating for Penn State fans. You out-coached Ohio State. You had a better game plan, and you still lost. It's a tough one to swallow. Even though Ohio State didn't impress me, you got the win on the road, and I can never take that away from you. Penn State's not a good team because of Sean Clifford. They're a solid team. I will say this. That was a good one for Ohio State, but I still need to see some more. I'm not reassured, and I want to come on here and say that win was great for Ohio State and I'm sold on them, but I'm not. Moving on down here, oh yeah, going to talk about this for 10 seconds. TCU, they avoided the upset from West Virginia. They win 41-31 and they're sitting at a pretty 8-0 and undefeated. Notre Dame upset Syracuse, who cares about that? And then we had at 2:30 the CBS game of the week, Georgia, or why'd I say it like that? It's Georgia and Florida. Yeah, there's not too much to say about this one. It went how everybody expected. Georgia, they was winning 28-3 from halftime, and it was never close after that. I know Florida did cut it 28-20, but you never really felt like it was a close game. I expected Kirby Smart and Georgia to run the ball out against Florida, and that's exactly what they did. Edwards had 12 carries for 100 yards, and McIntosh, that's my favorite running back on Georgia, he had 16 carries for 90 yards. And then good old Stetson Bennett had his typical mediocre performance, 19 for 38, that's only 50%, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns to 2 INTs. Good old DoorDash Bennett. He's average. He's mediocre at best, but we all know this. I've said this for 2 years. The only reason he sometimes looks good is because he gets the ball to his weapons and they create. And what about that 70-yard bomb he had to Brock Bowers? That had to be the luckiest pass catch thing I've ever seen. I mean, let's just be real here. Cut the crap. Who cares about this game? Nobody. Even Georgia fans, they can't even lie to you and say they cared about it. You know what these Georgia fans are looking for? They're looking forward to the game next week against Tennessee. I can't wait for that one myself. Florida's a dumpster fire. Georgia, they're the quote-unquote #1 team in the country. I'll address that later. Let's get a move on. Oregon wins again. What about that? And what about this one? Kansas State, I thought my phone was glitching or something. They won 48-0. That's embarrassing for a top 10 team to lose by nearly 50 points. Pitiful, man. It's pitiful. And also another top 10 team, overrated ACC team Wake Forest, lost by dang near 30. You hate to see it. And like I said, this recap is going to be relatively short. There wasn't too many good games. Oh, yeah, I need to talk about this one. I told y'all last week South Carolina shouldn't be ranked. I don't think they're a good team. And what do you know? They back up my claims and statements by losing to one of the worst teams in the SEC, Missouri. They didn't just lose, lost by double digits. And this was a home game. It doesn't get too much more embarrassing than that. I do want to say this, though. What about Missouri? They're supposed to be a terrible team, but they've been looking okay this year. I found that interesting because remember, Missouri nearly beat Georgia. Last but not least, though, got to talk about 2 more games. We got Kentucky and Tennessee, and this one was ugly. There's not too much to say on this one because I called it and I told you guys I expect Tennessee to win by 25 or 30 points, and that's what happened. I don't know why, but all in the offseason, all year long, the past year and a half, all I've heard is Will Levis. He's going to be potential top 5 draft pick. He's the next what's the guy for the Bills? The next Josh Allen. He's going to be great and blah, 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 blah. And I've never seen it. I've never understood the hype in this kid. I understand he has great size. He has a great arm, but he doesn't play great. For me, here's what I'm talking about. I don't understand how an NFL GM can look at Will Levis and look at Hendon Hooker and say, yeah, I want Will Levis. That's what I'm talking about, but that's a different story for a different day. That's where I'm getting on this. He played terrible, 16 for 27, didn't even have 100 yards, 0 TDs, and 3 interceptions, QBR 16.4. Pitiful, and I get it, his offensive line ain't that good, but he wasn't that good either. On the flip side, for good old Rocket Tap, 19 for 25, Mr. Hendon Hooker, 250 through the air, 3 touchdowns, 0 INTs, and QBR 90. There's nothing for me to hype up. I've been hyping up Tennessee the past 2 or 3 weeks, and they're continuing to back my statements up. I tweeted it out, I think about 2 weeks ago. Tennessee is reminding me a lot of 2019 LSU. This is looking like one of those magical seasons, and also Jalen Hyatt, 5 receptions, 138 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I don't know what it is about this Jalen Hyatt kid, but he's always 20 feet wide open. Oh, wait a minute. I know what it is. It's Josh Heupel getting him open. He's a mastermind. Here's the craziest thing about this. I'm not taking anything away from Jalen Hyatt. He's a great wide receiver. But Josh Heupel's making him look 2 times better. Here's what I mean by that. You put Jalen Hyatt on any other team in the country, he's not even doing close to what he's doing at Tennessee. Jalen Hyatt is going to make a lot, and I mean a lot of money because of Josh Heupel. After watching this game and rewatching the film on it, this is what did it for me. Tennessee is the #1 team in the country, and it's not even close. If you think any other team than Tennessee is the #1 team in the country or the best team in the country, you're out of your mind. When you look at what they've done, look at their resume, look at who they beat, and look at the eye test Miss, look at how they're beating them. It's not close. Georgia's had a great season, but they haven't looked as great as Tennessee. And here's why it's not close to me. Not only does Tennessee look like the best team in the country, they have the best resume. Yeah, you can say Georgia or Ohio State, they look like the number one team, but they don't have the resume to compete with Tennessee. That's all I'm going to say about it. There's nothing to argue about. They're the best team in the country. And I guess it doesn't even matter because they play Georgia next week, so it'll get settled then. Last but not least, the good old Lane Train pulls off the, I was going to say they pull off the upset, but they beat Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher. I'm glad that Ole Miss won this game because Jimbo Fisher called Nick Saban and Kiffin some things in the offseason, and even Kiffin addressed that after the game. Hey man, I'm just like you guys. I'm your normal SEC fan. I love to see Jimbo lose as much as anybody else. That's the great thing about it. Whether you're a Tennessee fan, Georgia fan, Alabama fan, Auburn fan, I think we can all meet in the middle here. And we can agree on we love to see Texas A&M lose. There's just something about watching a team who's paying their head coach $100 million and paying for recruits to lose every game that satisfies me. You got a team in Ole Miss who has a bunch of 2- and 3-star recruits beating teams with Texas A&M that have a bunch of 5-star recruits. Think about that. Jimbo Fisher once again gets outcoached. Am I shocked by that? Absolutely not. But here's a fun fact, or not a fun fact, but a fun stat for you. Ole Miss's running back had 34 carries and 205 yards. That's ridiculous. They need to get him an ice bath. But yeah, that is going to wrap up the recap. I know it wasn't a crazy week. Still a good week. Let me know your thoughts down below. But bye.